Hey everybody, this is Patty Sliney, Handy Quilter National Educator, and we had a question come up on social media today, so I thought I would try to do a quick little video to show people how to do this. We had a group member ask how to create an all-over edge-to-edge design where one row faces one direction, or all the horizontal design repeats are pointing one direction, and then the second row, all those horizontal design repeats face the opposite direction, and have that repeated down your quilt. So I thought, okay, I can certainly show you how to do that. Very easy to do. So let's open up a design, and I'm going to pick the dinosaurs design that's in our Pro Stitcher Designs continuous continuous lines subfolder. So this is the dinosaurs, and you can see they're all facing to the left. And so what I want is I want one row here that's going to all face to the left, and then the row below it, I want all these dinosaurs to face to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this design in so it's close to the top. I'm going to zoom in so I can see a little bit better, and then get him up to the top. I've created a 50 by 50 area here, so it's a square quilt. I'm not too worried about whether this is going to be beyond my perimeter or within my perimeter for my area yet. We'll see how it repeats, and then I'll use the crop tool so we can get it all fitted. And then let me zoom back out. And let's go ahead and repeat this. And I am going to extend this past my area perimeter. So I'm going to go to the repeat tab, basic, and the ribbon. And then I'm just going to add some repeats here. Oop, not that repeat. Be on the horizontal tab, and let's add some horizontal repeats. I'm going to add one more just so I have plenty. And then I'm going to move it over. Let me zoom out. And I want it to be kind of evenly spaced here, and I can either just fiddle with my finger, or I can go to modify, align, and then I can align it horizontally to the center. So I have this centered on top of my area, and I'm happy with this. And you'll see why I added some extra repeats, because I'm going to do something a little extra special to the second row. So if I'm happy with what I've got, I want to baseline that. And that function, the baseline function, that freezes all of my modifications, and it's turned this into one giant design instead of 4 repeats. So now I'm going to take this row and I'm going to duplicate it. And let me move my crosshairs down because it's going to load to my crosshairs. So I'm going to duplicate it. Now I want this row to face, the dinosaurs to face a different direction, the opposite direction. So I'm going to go to modify, rotate, and then I'm going to touch mirror. Okay. And I'm going to leave, I can leave these, I can leave the start and end points where they are. In Pro Stitcher Premium, we do have the option to swap, but I'm going to leave my start point over here because I'm going to connect these two rows. So again, I want to center this one, but what I really want is I want to stagger my dinosaurs. So they're not, I'll show you what I mean. If I align this horizontally to the center, see how my dinosaurs are stacked one on top of the other? I don't want that. I want them to be staggered. So I'm just going to take my finger, since I have select turned on in my left sidebar, and I'm going to get it about where I want. So I have select turned on. That allows me to touch my screen and move this over. And I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to check out the tallest dinosaur's tail here, because I don't want that stitching up into my other row. And plus I want to see if they're pretty well centered, and they look pretty good. That actually looks pretty good. Let's zoom back out. And I do that by touching the refresh button, which is the little house button at the very bottom of your screen. And I'm only looking at what's kind of happening here inside my area because that's what I'm going to be stitching out on my quilt. I'm going to get rid of all this excess. I'm happy with how everything is aligned, so I'm going to baseline that row because that was my selected row. Now I want to connect these two rows and then crop them and then baseline them and then repeat them vertically. So let's do that. And that's going to be what gives me my all over really fun edge to edge design. So I'm going to go to my workspace tab over here, and this shows me everything that's on my workspace. It shows my area, my first row of dinosaurs, and my second row of dinosaurs. And whatever's listed in your workspace, whatever happens first is going to be listed on top. The next thing you do or design you open is listed next and on down. So this is sort of a chronological listing of what's happening in your workspace. So let's go down here, and I'm going to click on Select None to deselect everything. And then I'm going to touch Multi-Select, which is an on-off tool. See how it turns green? That tells you it's an on-off tool. So when I'm done with it, I want to turn it off. And I'm going to select my first row. Then I'm going to select my second row, and look what happens here to the end and the start point. Okay, it's got to jump. So it's going to connect these two rows. Now I'm going to turn off my multi-select tool like I said I would. I'm happy with this. I'm going to baseline it. And so now I'm going to go ahead and crop away all this excess. Go to my Modify Crop tool, and I'm going to click outside, and then I'm going to close my edges, and then I'm going to baseline again. Now, at this point, I would save this. I do a File, Save, Selected, and then I can go to wherever I want. I don't want to save it in here. I might go to, I have a miscellaneous folder. So I could click on miscellaneous, and I could give this a name, clear. And I could say something like 2 rows dinosaurs to edge. Okay, save it. That way, if something happens, my tablet crashes, I have a motor error, I need to rebuild my design, I've got this design that I can repeat that's going to fit in my 50 by 50 area. So now the last thing I want to do is I want to repeat this. So I'm going to go to my vertical tab. I just went to repeat, and my vertical tab in the right sidebar, and then I'm going to add some repeats. Let me move my crosshairs so you can see what's happening. Okay, and it's going to repeat it with the same space that I had originally made. Okay, so it hangs over a little bit. It's not a problem. Let's baseline this. I'm happy with this. Let's go back to Modify and Align, and let's center this. So I'm just going to click on the center, and that will center it both horizontally and vertically. And it does hang over a little. Not a problem. We can get rid of it by going to Crop, Outside, Edges, and then baseline one more time. And so it's going to start, and it's going to stitch this row, and then stitch here and stop. And then come over here, start here. So I can stitch out 2 rows at a time. Things to consider. How tall is this row? And you can see this is at the 0 and this is at the 10 because I have my rulers on here. Some of you may not have rulers on, but I like my rulers on, and this is where it comes in really handy. So I can see that these 2 rows, because they're going to stitch out together, are slightly less than 10 inches. I take my crosshairs, there you go. So top of it's here at 0, bottom of that second row is at 10. That will have no problem fitting in my 24-inch throat space, and in fact it would even probably fit into something as small as a Simply 16's throat space. And if I'm happy with this and I like how this is going to stitch out, and this is exactly what I wanted, one row of dinosaurs facing this way, the next facing this way, it's going to stitch out 2 rows. It's just going to jump down. It'll stitch here jump down, stitch here, and then stop. And then I can advance, and then it'll stitch out this row, then this row, and then stop. So I like it. Again, I would do a file, save selected. I don't normally save workspaces, don't really need to, because my area's done its job, so I'm not going to need it again. And I would save selected, and I would probably browse to my D drive if I had my flash drive plugged in. All I did was collapse my C drive so I can see my D drive better, which would be right here. And that would be my flash drive. And I would select it and save my all over edge to edge design on my flash drive and proceed with stitching it out. So hope that was fun and easy, and I hope that you practice that and play around with some directional designs and see if you can get one row going one direction, another row going the next direction. Pay attention to the height of your individual design element. So if you want to connect two rows, you can. If you don't want to connect two rows, that's very simple. Since I saved my two rows, I'm going to show you, let me get my crosshairs out of the way. So what I would have done here on the second row is I would have swapped my start and end point. If you have Pro Stitcher Premium, you have that function, and that way the start point would have been over here and the stop point would have been over here, and you could still connect these two and group them and save them, but it would start here, stop here, and then jump and start here and stop here. If you had a design element that was going to be too big, too tall, to stitch out as two rows like this one does. So if you have any questions, if you're not sure about how to do that, I can always do another little video and show you using swapping your start and end points. Again, if you have Pro Stitcher Lite, that function is not available, so you would not be able to do that. You would have to pick a design element that can do this, that isn't too tall, so you can accommodate two rows. So have fun, play around, and post on social media and let me know how you did.